Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, the podcast where two lifelong artists who are married talk about stories. I did that wrong. Two lifelong storytellers who are married who talk about stories. I'm Pavi, Proczko. Yeah. Yes, we're artists, but, you know, storytellers. I'm Pavi, Proczko.
So
yes, it is. That's true. I should be more specific. I'm Pavi. I am audiobook narrator, etc.
And I'm Colin Funk, a childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we're going to be talking about Wonka, the new Willie Wonka origin story film. But first, let's do our moment of the week.
Great. Why don't you go first?
So we've been watching Palm Royale.
Oh, yes.
This is very interesting with Kristen Wiig. It's really nice to see Kristen Wiig, again, doing something a little bit dramatic, which is super fun. It's kind of a, I mean, it's funny, but it's not, it's a comedy, but it's like not like a normal Kristen Wiig type of, you know, she's not Target lady.
Right.
She's being a little bit more, it's extreme, but it's a little bit more dramatic. It's emotional. There's got some depth to it.
Yeah, it's like a dramedy. It's not quite a straight up comedy.
Right. And I think, I mean, it's like a killer cast.
The cast
is great.
Amazing.
And I think I don't remember her name, but it's the first friend that she helps out at the beginning. And there's like all these weird moments that she has with the Kristen Wiig character where Kristen Wiig's like trying to like get in and get recommended for a spot at the club at the Palm Royale, and this lady's like opening up to her, but she keeps flipping back and forth between being like warm and intimate and open, and then kind of like turning on a dime and being like, no, I'm not going to help you, or
that character's
really interesting.
I'm going to look up Dinah.
Yes, Dinah, the character Dinah. Oh, it's so, I think that her moments are really fascinating, especially in comparison to all the other kind of like
the other women in society.
It almost feels like a video game where it's like all the different like bosses that Kristen Wiig has to go and like defeat and kind of get under her belt, because like she has to like get them to sign her little membership candidacy form. And each one of them is a little bit different, and there's like the big boss at the end.
It's very interesting.
It's been interesting. I'm excited to see how it goes. The most recent episode came out soon. We haven't seen it yet, but it's been fun. I hate having to wait for the next episode, but
I'm so used to
just the binging.
The binge.
I know. I have to wait. But I've liked it so far.
When I'm like, wait a minute. That's it. There's no more left.
2 episodes. What? Yeah. Been spoiled. But everything seems to be going that way. Anyway, the specific moments. So it's like when, even after she's like, there's this moment where she's like been helped to, I'm not going to ruin it, but Kristen Wiig character helps Dinah out, and is like trying to get her to, you know, sign for her, and it's like, despite having like done this like big deed for her, going out of her way to like make this happen, the Dinah character is just like refuses to do it. She eventually does, but it's like just the way that she kind of goes back and forth between like, oh, you know, you're my best friend, and then flips to you're like the worst person in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that part of that first one was a little drug fueled.
Yeah, sure.
For like medical reasons, but like, again, not to ruin too much, but like there's part of that big flip in the beginning was that, but like,
but there, you see some of that, like you're my best friend, in just the desperation and coming to Kristen Wiig for help at all.
I just think the Dinah character is just very interesting because it's clear that all of these like high society ladies are like friends, but not really. So they're actually desperate for some sort of connection. and
especially if you're
to be vulnerable and honest.
Yeah.
Because like secrets are like a commodity.
Yes. Right. And, you know, knowing that this outsider, the Kristen Wiig is an outsider, that she can maybe risk confiding in her.
Right. She's
vulnerable.
not afraid of her. There's no.
Right. And interesting, they're supposed to be friends, but she would never ask for help from any of those other people.
Right. That. Yes. Because of those, like the social.
Yeah.
Rules,
boundaries and rules and mores and the embarrassment and
it's interesting.
It's interesting.
I've liked that show so far.
It's very like royal court. It feels very kind of like Renaissance court, but it's in the 1960s.
60s Florida?
Florida, yeah.
Yeah, 60s Florida. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting setting. Yeah, very cool.
Yep. What about you?
My niece is in town and we've been watching lots of Disney movies, essentially. And we rewatched Frozen 2. And we've only seen it once before and weren't in love with the story. Neither Frozen nor Frozen 2 are very solid storytelling.
Yeah.
Frozen 2, they both have good music. Frozen 2 has especially good music.
Yeah. And interestingly, the story kind of like to the detriment of the music, because like when we watched it, none of it really like made an impression, and then it was like only after when we were listening to the music in other circumstances that I was like, man, that's a jam.
Yeah,
I don't even know, when was that song? Music. I don't even remember it.
Yeah. There was a couple, especially "Show Yourself." That song is freaking good. But we're watching it, and there was a specific scene that really stood out to me this time. It's when like she's like getting called by all the element spirits. The wind spirit, fire spirit, she like runs into each of them and has kind of like some sort of trial with them. The final one, I don't know if it's the final, I don't remember the order of this, but one of them is the water spirit.
Yeah.
And the water, it's this like horse, kelpie that like is made of water. It's like horse made of water that she essentially has to like tame to get to where she's going.
Right.
And they have like, we see her have this trial with the water.
Yeah.
And she's like running out into the ocean, into the North Sea. And she's having to like dive through like huge crashing waves. And eventually wrestling this like water spirit horse that is literally dragging her down underwater and like trying to drown her. And, and it's like very exciting and very tense. And she ends up like taming this horse and riding it to Otahallan, the river where all the memories are. Right. Whatever. But so this is like her big, this is my big trial, the hero journey, like taming the
dragon, taming the monster.
Dragon, it just made me rethink or think about Dune.
Yes.
Dune 2, because
and how
it was such a
disappointing that
just a sad
the taming of the worm.
Of the sandworm.
Frozen 2 did it better.
Frozen 2 does it better in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. It's so exciting. There's like, I mean, what do you think makes the difference?
Well, I think part of it is like you actually see Elsa in danger. Yeah. You're like, I don't know if she's gonna, that's scary. This is the first time, this is the whole movie, like Elsa's just like using her magic left and right. Yeah. Easy peasy, taming the fire spirit, taming the wind spirit, like not a big deal. But this like, I mean, she's like getting pushed. Like this horse is pushing her underwater, like could drown her.
Right.
And it's like, it's a time where I'm like, oh, I forget that she's mortal. And I'm like nervous again.
Right.
I realize that she's actually doing hard things and she's not this perfect being that can just get away with anything.
Right.
It shows that she has to struggle. And if she doesn't, if she's taken on a risk that is actually deadly.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't even have to necessarily see someone else, you know, I think there's like a misconception sometimes with storytelling where in order to understand the stakes, you have to like actually see it spelled out. And that's not necessarily true. You don't have to see the Kelpie like drown someone else to know that they can drown someone, because we know what water does. And we know that she doesn't breathe underwater. So if you see she's in an ocean getting pushed underwater, it's like it automatically puts the stakes in.
Yeah.
Conversely, Dune 2, he's got this worm that he's trying to tame, and we see how powerful the worms are, where they like eat stuff, but we don't see really any struggle for him to tame this thing. Not only that, we just saw him at the end of the previous movie, maybe was it at the end of the previous one, where like the worm comes to like say hi, like pops up and it's like hello, and then it just like goes away and like nothing happens. So it's like there actually is no danger. And they also use these worms for just like mass travel inexplicably. Right. And maybe that's in the book, probably is. I don't get it, but it's just, there was no struggle really. It was not clear.
It looked difficult, like holding on, but it's like in a just hold on, but not even like an exciting, like, oh no, he's going to fall.
He didn't even slip off or anything. He just kind of did it.
He did it. He was like slow and calculated, and it just happened, and it was fine. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not exciting. These are the dragons of this world. Right. And if I'm watching a hero tame the dragon,
I have to know that something's actually at stake here.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see that, one, he's mortal, and two, that he overcomes the challenges. Yeah. Like Hercules is not interesting at the like there's the whole point of the Hercules movie.
Yeah, the Disney one.
The Disney one. Yeah. Is that like, yeah, he could beat any monster, that's fine, but like he's got super strength. That's not going to be hard for him. Right. So like what happens, he's not going to become a true hero until something else happens. Right. Like this is in kids movies. Like we understand the concept. Anyway.
And we understand too, that's interesting, is that it is, again, it's a Disney movie. Very unlikely that one of your princesses is going to like actually like meet her demise. Yeah. They're not going to kill Elsa.
No, but they kill people.
They do kill people, but they're not going to kill Elsa, at least not in movie 2. I guess they could have. It would have been more likely. Yeah, that's true. There is an Anna, like they could have, but it's just like, my gosh. Yes, you're right. Anna. But the point is, you can be pretty reasonably certain that they're not going to like off this princess, and yet there is still that excitement. You're still, I mean, you Disney can see it's like, oh my gosh, she is. Well, how's she going to get out? Right, and that's what's interesting. Yeah, it's like Dune is telegraphed. It's like, I know how he's going to do it, and he's going to do it, and that's it.
They make sure it's not too scary, I think, for kids. But like as an adult, sometimes I'm like, ooh,
it was a little much.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought
just dragging her around. My God.
Yeah. I thought that was a very interesting, like really great scene.
Mm-hmm. It's excellent.
No words, just like watching her do it. I'm like, oh, there we go. Yeah. Some clear storytelling. Interesting.
Yeah. Take notes, Dune.
Watch some more Disney films.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney is great at a hero's journey. They're great at it.
Yep. Bread and butter.
Let's get to the...
Yeah, let's do it. Wonka.
Wonka.
Time for our switch hit synopsis.
Let's do it. So Wonka,
Willie.
As Timothee Chalamet is Wonka.
Mm-hmm.
He
arrives in London.
Shows up in London. Mm-hmm. I think it's London.
I think it's supposed to be London. I think they did.
I think it is.
Everyone's British. Or no, they didn't specify, and it was weird because it was like all over the place. Like the names were like sometimes German and sometimes they were French. I mean, it looked like, and everyone was English.
I think it was, well, I don't know.
It was weird. It was just weird. Some nondescript European city, let's say.
I think it's London.
We'll just go with that.
Say London for now. Okay. Someone, if it's wrong, let us know.
If it's specific, yeah.
He arrives because he's prequel to the movie we all know and love.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
we're
Factory.
Seeing Willy Wonka start his chocolate company in London. He gets there. He's got all the things he needs. He's ready to start his chocolate company in London. Yeah. He goes through all of his money in the first like 3 seconds of the movie, and so ends up getting trapped at this like
the boarding house.
The boarding house.
And is going to work off his debt.
Olivia Colman.
Olivia Colman is
is the
head of the owner.
And like gets him to sign a contract that just like signs over his life essentially.
Right.
Where he's stuck in the workhouse.
Right.
Because he gets to pay for his room, but not until the next night.
Right.
But all the small print is like all these fines. That means he's got this huge debt that he has to pay off, and it's going to take like the rest of his life to pay off.
Right.
In the workhouse, in the basement.
Yes.
With a little cast of characters down there.
Yeah.
So we follow, and his dream is to like, he knows exactly. There's a shop that is closed down in the chocolate.
The center or whatever it is,
yeah, whatever the candy center with the Slugworths and there's 3
chocolate makers out of like the cabal of chocolatiers.
The head being Slugworth.
Yes, and they are trying to like, they own like basically all shares of chocolate, and they have a whole scheme to make sure that nobody else can break into the business, and they've been like
so they can
cutting the chocolate,
inflate the prices,
and make subpar chocolate.
So he's simultaneously like trying to escape the boarding house while trying to
make a name for himself as a chocolatier,
avoiding the corruptness of this chocolate cartel,
right? That
has the police,
the inexplicably Brooklynite Keegan-Michael Key,
who I know it doesn't make sense, but I kind of
dug it. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. But,
not one bit of sense. I don't get it, but
kind of funny. It is also a musical.
I like him. It's also a musical.
Yes. Starts singing.
Which I had known.
Yeah. But it took a while. Like I didn't know at first, but then I knew. Like someone had to tell me, but it was not particularly clear.
Yeah, it didn't seem clear. It was like people were talking about like Mean Girls and Wonka,
that it
and
just
how
like
they
wasn't
were like
billed as
not trying to push the fact that they're musicals.
Yeah,
people were like, you keep tricking us, and
yeah.
For Mean Girls, I was like, I don't think they were doing that, but
I don't know. Maybe
I knew it was a musical.
Right.
Wonka, I didn't though. So I'm like, was that? But I thought it was. I don't know, surprisingly better than I thought as a musical.
Yeah. Yeah. Did we get through the whole synopsis?
No.
Oh, okay.
But he's also trying to help this little girl
who's in the boarding house
also escape. So they go on their, they're like sneaking out, and because he's invented something to keep the washing going in the workhouse in the basement. They're sneaking out, selling chocolates, get the space, but the chocolate companies poison all the chocolate the time they open it.
And they have to try to like they have to find proof that that's happened.
Yeah.
And then they do find the proof. They end up handing over the proof to like the second in command of the police to like make sure that the police chief doesn't get involved.
Yeah.
Because he's like paid off by all the chocolates.
Like the cooked books.
Yeah. Because there's like the real books, and then there's like the not real books, and they found the real books, and he ends up freeing everybody from the boarding house, the workhouse, and find out that the little girl who's been working there is Slugworth's niece.
That's right.
And then she ends up traveling with him to like buy his castle that he turns into his chocolate factory that we all know and love. The end.
Yes.
And there's Oompa Loompas in there
too. There's an Oompa Loompa story.
Yeah, there's an Oompa Loompa.
It's
It's like an ally that helps them in the end.
Yeah.
And so you see like a lot of some concepts that are in the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film, especially like a lot of the aesthetic was trying to, I think,
the original Willy
Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? Yeah, with the Gene Wilder film.
Yes.
And you see a lot of kind of concepts from that appear. You kind of see where he maybe got some of these ideas from.
Yes. They've definitely
they were
borrowed. And so I might have read the book at some point in my life, but not in a long time.
Yeah.
The book being Charlie and the Chocolate Factory originally.
Yeah.
The book's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The original movie's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Right.
I believe the remake with Johnny Depp was Charlie
and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. This one was just Wonka.
Yes.
And the new stage musical is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Is that correct?
Is it Charlie?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Huh.
I thought it was. I thought it was just like going back to
I
that.
thought it was just called Wonka the Musical. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it might be Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the musical. And then just Wonka as the...
It's definitely not Wonka the musical.
Just Wonka was all over the branding. But it might have just been Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I think it is. Not important. So there's a whole rich world...
Many different versions of this.
Starting with Roald Dahl's book, obviously. Yes. And that very, especially the very popular Gene Wilder movie.
Yeah. Which is, until very recently, the only thing I knew about it.
Candy brand about it. Like,
yeah, right.
That they do sell chocolates, little Wonka chocolates. Which I don't love their packaging. I don't know why. I just think it's too cartoony. Part of it's because I just love that movie, the original. I don't know. It's hard to separate all of it.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure I'm all over the place because there's a lot of things that are all over the place. I do find that this movie is very scattered to me. Yeah. I'm having a hard time even remembering things that happened and remembering exactly specific things because there's not a great through line.
Yeah, a lot is going on. And we don't get to see, like, especially if you compare it, say, to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where it's like basically 2/3 of the film is in the chocolate factory. And a lot of stuff happens, but you're at one location dealing with one thing.
Yeah, but even before, the lead up to it is like pretty clear.
It's all about the factory. And then in Wonka, it's like spans some indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah, it kept having weird time
these
jumps.
Things.
Similar to Dune, it has weird time jumps. And you're
weird
like,
time jumps.
How long was that? Unless it didn't. No. Unless it was very fast.
Maybe.
But I'm confused.
It just like invents a bunch of stuff. They have to have spent enough time to like make all that money to like rent the space.
Right. It's very strange to like, we just have to make a lot of money, but I have like infinite chocolate resources.
Somehow. Yeah.
I'm like, but why do you have infinite chocolate resources, but you just need to, I don't get it.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I don't quite get the magic is unclear to me, the magic system, because clearly Wonka is magical.
Yeah. He obviously knows how to do magic.
Right.
And he has magic in his chocolate, literally. In
Willy Wonka, it's like much more scientific.
Yeah, it's quote scientific. It
feels like it.
It's like it's jokey, but there seems to be something less like innate about it and more kind of like alchemy,
Yes.
Like, I'm gonna give the chocolate a kick by throwing in some shoes. It's like a joke, but there's a logic to it. Whereas in Wonka, it's more like, I just have fairy tongues. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a little more. And that might be truer to the original source material.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read the book, or at least recently. But I don't know how much they took of the original lore, and I know, it feels like it is specifically prequeling the Gene Wilder movie.
Yes, because like, the aesthetic is there. He's got the outfit and the hat. Like they're doing that on purpose for sure.
For sure. So so some of it, I'm like, well, you don't have to like deviate so much from that.
Yeah,
because it feels different. And some of it is like really expanding on like the quirkiness and goofiness. Like there's something about like the original movie feels like magical realism.
Yeah.
And this
just feels like a fantasy.
Yeah, it feels just like goofy all over the place. There's like a solemnness of that original. Like there's it feels tragic.
There's a melancholy in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where this is like,
it's really talking about, it feels like it's very like Dickensian almost. It's like you're really living in the.
Yeah, it lives in the Oliver Twist world where you've got the poor kid that comes in. And in Wonka, they tried to do this epic. They made this epic journey.
Yeah,
that takes place in it's simultaneously too big and too small to like fit that bill.
Right. It's like because there's like the political schemey, like underground, like almost what are they called? Heist.
Oh yeah, it's heisty. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's got elements of heist. It's like very, we're looking at political and urban stuff, but also we're looking at magic and there's little.
I think that's really like the best way to describe it is like a lot of stuff happens.
Yes, a lot of stuff happens.
And when you compare that to the storytelling, say, of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, starring Gene Wilder, not a whole lot of stuff happens. One thing per kid basically happens.
Sure.
You see the scenes are so well delineated. You see the arc of each one of those scenes.
Right.
And Charlie's role in it and Wonka's role in it and how it kind of tells this common through line story that you kind of like, it's missing a little bit in Wonka because it's just thing to thing to thing to thing. And it's just like, well, we need to explain this. We need to justify this thing. So we have to make sure this happens. We have to justify this thing. And so it's like a lot of like, it feels like a lot of scrambling to make sure it all makes sense.
It feels like a lot of exposition. It feels like we are living in the world building and not in the story.
Yeah.
We're so worried about making sure the world makes sense.
Yeah.
That we're just, the story itself is getting muddied.
Yeah. Because it really doesn't have to make sense. Willy Wonka doesn't really make sense, quote unquote.
We don't have to, like, there's like details that we don't have to spend that much time on.
They make a joke of that. Like, how many times are they like, how did that happen? And he's like, and then we like move on in Willy Wonka. Like the Gene Wilder is just like, well, that's just how it is. Moving on. It's like, because it's silly. It's like, that's hardly the point.
Right.
It is not the point.
The interest of the world.
Yeah.
The world building is so much more interesting in the Gene Wilder movie. I don't know. They're just like very specific. Like we talk about the Oompa Loompas in that movie, and like he talks about the beasts there. That's like kind of like the most you're getting like, are you making something up? But we move on from it. We have no idea if he's telling the truth.
Right. Has he just enslaved these people? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's interesting too, like the way that they introduce a lot of backstory of our main character, right? In Wonka, you have to have this weird flashback. He's talking about his mom, who's not part of the story. She's not there. She's like, oh, his whole journey. He says, oh, if I had done my chocolate, she said she would be there. And even like the little girl is like, did you really
start with his mom, right?
No, we don't see them until later. And that's part of the problem. Like in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, we get Charlie's plight so quick. Like, we don't need a lot of time, and we don't need a lot of like bells and whistles and like I was in jail for 50 years before this all came. We don't have to do the thing that they did for the new West Side Story movie where they were like, right. Tony's going to have like a backstory where he was in jail for a year. And it's like, we didn't even need to know that. Where they do that do that in Wonka, where he's just like, well, what is your whole deal, Wonka? He's like, well, my mom, and now we're going to go meet his mom.
It's like a bad actor who's like, I know, I've justified why I'm doing this.
It's like seeing an actor's preparation for like an overzealous actor preparing for a role.
Yeah. Unless they made it about that, unless they like started there.
Right.
And they might have been able to keep the story simpler.
Yeah.
They could have cut out the whole boarding house nonsense, just dealt with the cartel, even have the girl that he's trying to help out.
Yes.
Who might be stuck in that situation, but like you don't have to like muddy it up. But even like the situation with the chocolate sellers, like we spend so much time learning about like the cop and his we have like a whole musical number about like, oh, you like chocolate, which is why we're able to bribe you.
Right.
And we spend so much time
that we don't actually get to see any of our heroes grow. We don't get to see what actually happens with them.
It feels like they just want to show a kooky, whimsical world.
Yeah. All these people have a story. It's like, yeah, they do, but we don't actually, what is the story you want to tell us though?
Yeah.
We don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
We just need to know what's important.
Well, and some of those things, some of the things that Keegan-Michael Key says at the different parts would be interesting if we didn't like really like preface it.
Yeah.
The whole time. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like if we were realizing like, I wish we realized later that like they're paying him in chocolate.
Right. We didn't have to like have a whole song about it. If he'd just been getting fat as the movie goes and we're like, what is happening? It's like, oh my God, he's been getting bribed. That would have been
in chocolate.
Yeah.
Not just with money.
Right. He's getting bribed in chocolate. That would have been wild. Very funny.
Really interesting. Been like, what is going on? Oh my God, he's being bribed in chocolate this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are things that, yeah, they are telling us.
Yeah, they're telling instead of showing. And that's
the old mistake.
Yeah, and I think it's happening a lot now in a lot of stories where there's a lot of telling and not enough just show me.
Yeah.
And we can see that in really great showing in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, to be perfectly like, because we keep bringing this up,
yes.
we did go back and rewatch that movie, and I think part of this episode is also discussing how great that movie is.
The Gene Wilder film is so good.
It's really good. And I know it's not like we're not comparing versions because Wonka is a totally
different film,
and it's a different story.
Yeah. But it feels like it's trying to pay an homage to it. It borrows a lot of aesthetic. It borrows a lot of storytelling. Yeah, it borrows the characters. Borrows a lot of storytelling concepts, like a lot of Wonka tropes are in it. And so we're supposed to like maybe understand that he stole that idea from, you know, the contract, for example, is like the big contract that has like a ton of things on it that is meant to trap people.
With the small print that, yes,
oh my God,
contract with small print is in both movies.
And the inexplicable, weird
he learned
quirk,
it from
that, but he didn't know how to read in Wonka. I forgot about that and thought that was the stupidest plot point. Mm-hmm. That he didn't read the contract because he didn't know how to read.
Yeah.
That was dumb. I hate that.
That's dumb. It's a bad justification.
More interesting if he was actually in, say, Charlie's position and we're seeing, you know, basically what amounts to the villain, or at least the antagonist of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is Willy Wonka. You know, he is the antagonist in that. And then seeing him learn how to be the villain from his own villains.
Yes.
That would have been really interesting.
I think that was part
That's kind of what they were trying to do.
I'm sure.
But they gave him like too much credit by being like, well, he would have read it if he had known how to read, but he was poor and he didn't learn how to read. Much more interesting if he like absolutely knew how to read and he was like, no, I don't have to worry about it. It's fine. I can trust people around me.
Yeah.
Learning that he can't.
Right.
Learning that that's actually a really good way to weed out the baddies, which is what he's doing. Because he's like not evil per se when he's got his own chocolate factory, but he is trying to like weed people out. And he can use his you know, old tricks that worked on him on those kids. Like that would have been interesting to kind of reverse engineer this origin story that's not just about like, how did you get to make chocolate? It's like, no, this is how he got to be this weirdo.
Right. And okay, let's talk about character and how it relates to storytelling a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the character of Willy Wonka in the Gene Wilder version adds so much to the storytelling in a way that the character and the characterizations of the character Wonka in Wonka, I think, distract.
Yeah, Timothee Chalamet's Wonka is a little distracting.
In that it's like, it's meant to be, they're both meant to be comedic, but like, in Wonka, it seems they're being comedic by being like, oh my gosh, he said something really crazy and silly.
Look at how quirky he is.
And in the Gene Wilder version, I mean, first of all, he is just a jerk.
He is a jerk.
And
Gene Wilder is excellent at it.
Gene Wilder is so good.
He's so freaking funny.
How excellent he is.
That performance is unbelievable. It's so good.
I don't think Timothee Chalamet himself did a bad job. I wasn't in love with it, and I think he tried to do something understated like the Gene Wilder, but the writing doesn't lend to be the same character. And I think my assumption is that they're trying to like give him a little bit more hope and a little bit more like childlike innocence to be lost along the way.
Sure. Which we don't really see him lose in the film.
Right. And
we just assume that he's lost it at some point between Wonka and Willie Wonka the Chocolate Factory.
Something really interesting in the Gene Wilder version where we're watching, like we see, he's like given up on people.
Yeah, he has.
And he doesn't trust people. He's not like grumpy about it. That's very interesting.
Not until the end when he had just like reams.
But is that a show? I don't know.
I don't know. Interesting. And I mean,
I'm sure it's partly, he's so good.
He's so good. And that's part of what makes the Gene Wilder Wonka such an interesting character is if you compare it to the other Wonkas that we've seen the stage musical. I haven't seen the Johnny Depp, but from what I hear, and even the Timothee Chalamet Wonka, where it's like they created characters that are quirky. They're weirdos. And look at how weird they are is what you're kind of supposed to come away with, that there's something off about them based on their really extreme behaviors, really extreme mannerisms maybe. With the Gene Wilder, there's actually kind of, it's all so understated. What makes him quirky is the disconnect between kind of what he is doing and like what he says and what's going on. And because the thing that makes Willy Wonka in the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka quirky is that he is doing something very specific that is disconnected from what is going on. So he's ostensibly giving a tour of his chocolate factory to like these lucky winners. That's not what he's doing, though.
No,
he's weeding out these kids.
Yeah, this is all test after
this
test.
This is a test. So when he's there and he says something weird, it's because he's like, well, I'm actually doing this other thing.
Right.
You think I'm going to be like, very basic example is you think he's going to be very sympathetic about the kid that got sucked up, Augustus Gloop gets sucked up in the thing. And he's like, like, oh no, on my tour, someone got sucked up. Oh gosh. But that's not what you get out of him. What you get out of him is like, oh, well, we better make sure he doesn't get, turned into fudge. So we're going to go take care of that. And it's like, what a quirky man that's just like not worried about it. He's like, because he's doing that on purpose.
Right.
That is what he,
and part of that's like, we don't know that that's what he's doing. And we're like, is he just like really messed up?
Right.
Is he like happy that these children are getting killed or
maimed or whatever, right?
If they're getting killed or like we don't know.
Yeah,
we don't see what happens to these kids.
Right. It's more like he's like expecting it, but it's that it is the quirkiness comes from what he's doing, not how he's behaving.
No, he doesn't seem like, and the way he's talking, like when he throws shoes into the pot of whatever, and it was like it gives him a little kick. Like he's not like he's not broadcasting
the joke.
No. It's just like, it happens. And just the reactions of everyone are like,
wait, what?
What
Yeah.
are you talking about? Like, but you just put shoes in, that's not food. Like it's like funny because it's not like, they're all just like, what?
It breaks the rules of what is considered kind of socially normal.
He lives, I mean, like
he lives outside
completely,
of society. Yeah.
But he doesn't have to do that in his, like
it's not a show.
Right. He's not showing that. He's not, he's just like, he seems like a normal person. He's talking like a normal person.
Yeah.
He's not like, he doesn't have a silly, weird voice. He doesn't like.
Right. He's just playing a different game than everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that because nobody knows, it feels like he's being quirky. And that is essentially what quirkiness is, I think. Like when you have like a genuine quirky person, it's not because they're like doing quirky things on purpose. You know, it's like Tina Belcher is quirky because she's a freaking weirdo and just like has a different, she's doing a different strategy. Like she's playing a different game than everyone else is.
Yeah. And I would say like, and that's all different than like Jack and Karen, going back to Will and Grace, because we
didn't talk about Will and Grace today.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Maybe we just did. Or
Maybe we did earlier. Yeah, but we've been watching Will and Grace, so yes.
That might have been well, I don't know. Will and Grace is great. But Karen and Jack are amazing, but they are performative.
Yeah.
That's part of their character.
Right.
And their quirkiness, I mean, it's like, it's meta. You have to be very, they're in on the joke that they are not like real people.
Yeah.
They're like caricatures of people.
Yeah.
Especially like along the way. They have like moments of, they're based in reality, but they're not, I don't know.
I would say they even are playing they're playing different games than everyone else. They're playing a different game too.
Yeah.
Like you think about the one when Karen's getting learning how to drive, and Will's like, be careful. There's like, there's a
lady with a carriage,
and she's like, on it, and gonna run it over because she's playing a different game.
Yeah, she's in her own world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's something. Gene Wilder isn't even quirky in his mannerisms necessarily. No. It's just,
and it's not overwritten,
situational.
Yeah. And it's a very clear tactic. Like as an actor, he's like doing something.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yes.
It's really interesting.
It's not just like, ooh, let's throw in a couple silly weird things.
Yeah,
on the
which
side.
is very much what feels like. At least the Timothee Chalamet kind of really did feel that way.
It does.
Like
it does.
Valiant
all
effort.
All of a sudden, he has this reaction that's like different than everything else he's done. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is this reaction now?
It's so strange, and it feels unreal. It feels disingenuous. I'm like,
yeah. Is that
forced?
Is that an acting problem? Is that a
writing problem,
directing problem?
It's a little bit all of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's much easier to make a subtle choice like that when you've got a really pared down script, which is, Gene Wilder does not have a lot of extra stuff written in to his lines there. While it obviously looks like they sculpted this role, for Timothee Chalamet to do these things and has these things to say that are weird. And we're going to give him quirky things to say.
Right. Well, and I mean, like, to your point, things like adding on that he doesn't read, adding on the background about his mother, and having none of those really be the thing or the important or the action. Yeah. Like, we are so focused on the character isms and and what makes him the way he is, and all the little quirks and the whys and the stuff around it, and not the like, okay, but what does he care about, and what is he doing?
Right.
Because like what he's doing, I mean, he's trying to start a chocolate company.
Yeah.
And that's very simple.
Yeah.
But then he's doing a lot of other things in the meantime.
Yeah.
Why are we spending like a whole chunk of time singing with the giraffe?
I know. I don't know. And I wonder like what I've been trying to think of what in Wonka the kind of what that like the dynamic of the character is, like what is he actually like? What are we trying to learn here exactly? That is he trying? Are we watching someone like mature? Is he like finding out how vile the world is? That would have been maybe interesting. That would have been really clever.
It would have been interesting to watch him kind of becoming the villain.
Yeah. But we're kind of seeing just an altogether like success story, but it's unclear exactly what we're learning other than like, oh, my mom isn't actually going to be here when I start my chocolate company. I have the power to do this. I don't know.
I mean, like there's something interesting about him being the Charlie of the story.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work out like that.
It doesn't really.
Because there's like an innocence to him. They're like trying to bring in an innocence and like we're trying to like parallel. I think that's why they brought in, I think they're just trying to do too much. Mm-hmm. It's not about the story. We're not about the story.
We're seeing a lot of like devices and not a whole lot of story. Yeah.
We're actually confusing the story for the embellishments.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we look at Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, we can clearly see there's this morality story happening.
Oh,
you can see like what, if we were to kind of distill it into like a question, it's like, how does one be a good person and also successful, right? Mm-hmm. How do you kind of do both of those things all at once?
Yeah. I just find it really interesting that having a clear character with clear goals and not getting wrapped up in making it something specific. It's something that like, I think, speaking of the Johnny Depp, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Tim Burton kind of goes too far in the direction of like, I care about the world building and the like aesthetic and the like the little weird things and like Johnny Depp that movie is atrocious. That movie is just, I haven't watched it in a while and I kept being like, I'm just gonna rewatch it for this to talk about this episode, and I'm like, I can't do it. It is so atrocious. Johnny Depp is like he's like afraid of the dentist.
What? Okay.
There's like a lot of fear, and he's like very like, it's
like the dentist is like Willy Wonka's mortal enemy because sugar and dentist, I guess.
Yes, like I get the reason. It's just like, but he's like he's got these like, he's like OCD and he's got weird tics and quirks and I don't really remember.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's darker and a little bit more disturbing and I think that can be interesting. You can have a dark twist. Like,
of course,
it is definitely
Roald Dahl.
Dark. Yes. But like we really lose so much of the, like you lose the details of the story in adding the little quirks because you lose the action.
Right.
We're not action focused anymore. And the thing is, I've seen good story that doesn't feel like it's super action based. Like we talked about Poor Things. Mm-hmm. I don't think Poor Things is that action based.
No, but every single scene we see is important.
Yes. Because it's there's a clear doing that like goes through it. And that is kind of like learning. I don't know.
Well, it's like it's all attached to like kind of that object of desire, right? It's like the character wants something, and they all want something, and they all have their way of trying to get it, and they're all kind of trying to get the same things, or they're everyone's like dealing with the same choice. Like, do we fight or surrender, is like a very basic, it's kind of like all stories kind of end up like falling in between there. It's like, when am I compromising? When am I fighting? Right. It's like, and it gets more specific. Of course, you need to be specific for your story, but it's when you kind of are confused about what people want, you can't even see those choices happening.
Right. Yeah. And it's not even that I'm confused about what people want. It's just like they do a lot of other things.
They're doing things that don't really line up with that.
Why are you doing that if you're trying to do this thing?
Right.
Why?
I mean, it amounts to kind of not having, or at least your actions not being connected to your object of desire. Now, granted, we as human beings, of course, behave in all sorts of ways. We want lots of things. We are very complicated. We've talked about this in previous episodes, blah, blah, blah. Stories are not the same as people, though. So when you actually have a story, you're going to lose the, quote, realism of it when you start kind of deviating away. And it's because when we are absorbing story, when we're experiencing a story, we only want to see the relevant things.
Okay, but here's the thing, is like, even as people, even as we develop, even as we're like making our own identities and we're looking at what has happened in our lives, the reason storytelling works is we are already naturally doing that to our own experiences.
Right. Yeah.
Where yes, people do that. Like we don't want to see, that's why reality TV can be what it is, because we can cut out things that aren't important, and there's better and worse reality TV based on editing. It's all editing in reality TV.
We're doing it all the time in our minds.
That's how we interact with the world. That's how we understand ourselves, our identities.
Yeah.
And it's how we make sense of other people and what's happening around us in the world. Is we're constantly editing things out and streamlining the storytelling.
Making ourselves consistent, making the people around us consistent.
So much so that we will even fabricate small bits and pieces to fill in blanks.
Accidentally, not even on purpose.
Yeah. We just do that naturally. To be like, this person is this kind of person.
Right.
Nobody is one thing.
Right.
We
all contain multitudes.
That story, the story of that person from that other person's perspective is going to be very different than yours.
Right. And when we come upon inconsistencies like that, it's very upsetting
It's
in
hard.
our own lives. And so when we see it in a story, we're like, no.
It doesn't work when we're all over the place and scattered in a story.
Right.
Because we're like, what is happening? I don't understand.
Yeah.
That I feel like there's just a lot of that in this. And I'm like, there's too many factions.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we haven't talked about
Game of Thrones or way
really like the 3 chocolate sellers very
Yeah.
much. We haven't talked about the whole bunch of people in the basement of the like in the workhouse.
Right. Or then the owners of the workhouse.
Or the owners of the workhouse that have their own storytelling. And then
the people in town.
the Oompa Loompa.
And then the Oompa Loompa.
Which honestly was the most streamlined of the story.
It was the most streamlined.
I'm not mad about the Oompa Loompa storyline.
Yeah.
Because it
And Hugh
wasn't
Grant is very
confusing.
funny.
And Hugh Grant playing an Oompa Loompa.
Those Oompa Loompas look like Hugh Grant.
What? Yeah.
It was very funny. I was like, that's good casting. It's like, who would have known?
It was. What did you think of that casting? And that's like, other than visually.
I thought that it was very funny, and it gives a little bit of life to the Oompa Loompas. It does feel a little bit outside of the world of the Willy Wonka Oompa Loompas. Not only because they're very small, apparently.
I guess I wonder if that's, I don't know what's the truest to the original.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Right.
It's obviously different.
It's obviously different than the original film.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I understand why they would change that, because they might have just gone with little people in the original film because they're little.
Yeah.
And it might be just...
Well, now we can just not hire any of them and make Hugh Grant tiny with a computer.
We're not like substituting a magically small creature with just a different
human,
differently sized human. We could cast little people again. Like that's But the point is like little people are just any of the people, or like we could cast any of the people in the show as a little person.
Yes, that's true.
We don't have to cast Like the only place for the little people doesn't have to be the tiny magical creature.
That's true.
Not even people sized.
Right.
So in that sense, I'm wondering if they also are trying to like make them more human and give them some more, like not have this like, are they just like, do they only have these like weird songs and they're just like being like weirdly enslaved by this, like, are they being taken advantage of?
Right.
Because
to give him a little bit more agency.
Yes, they give him agency just in general.
Yeah.
And they like almost swing the opposite way. They're like, they make him a very proper, posh.
He's very posh, very proper, has very willful. I just love
it was like very against like, yes, they're from Loompa Land, which has all these magical beasts. So like there's maybe the tendency to want to cast maybe, or to want to like push it in like it's a wild species and it's like not like, it just like goes into, it feels like we get into like, oh, this is indigenous people versus, you know, like we're like taking humanity away from this other group.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a reaction to that. It's like, no, these are people with just as much agency, even if they're from a different land that might be more tropical or
savage.
They're not, but it's not like there's not this idea of like a savage people or a savage race, and we haven't tamed these savages to work for us.
They are as sophisticated as the Europeans are. Yeah. And well, I've already started singing, and it will happen. And there's no stopping it. I've already started. The song's already started.
Yeah, there's
very funny
quirks to that. So I think that choice is very interesting in that.
Yeah.
Because it allows them to do all that kind of like polishing of that without having to do a lot of telling.
Yeah.
In fact.
Yeah.
And they keep it very minimal.
Yeah.
There's a couple things I'm like, you don't have to
show us like,
detail
what his life was like in the past, and now it's like we're hearing his backstory now
just
too.
Like, oh, I'm one of the tall ones, and it's like actually I was one of the short ones. I'm like,
okay,
no one cares.
I don't care.
They want to give everyone just a little bit of a sob story,
a little bit of a backstory, and it's like we really just don't have to know all that.
We don't need. You know,
there's a movie that it reminded me of. That Sacha Baron Cohen is in it, and he plays like, I don't know, like a train conductor or something. It's like Hugo. Is that the name of the movie? Where he's like, it's like a French movies and there's like a clock. It's like lives in like a clock tower.
Oh,
Hugo something, and it's like a very weird story. It was like it felt similar, like it felt meandering like that, and giving everybody these little backstories. Even I don't remember that. There's that. I don't know. There was a movie that came out about the same time as Ratatouille that was like the little mouse with it was like Despero the mouse, like the musketeer mouse. He's got a little like sword. Is like that is Matthew Broderick plays this little mouse, and he's got this little like needle for a sword. And there's like this, it's like these weird meandering stories where you just get everybody's backstory, and it's like shown, and it's like the front story doesn't happen.
There is that feels there's like an age group that this is right for.
Yeah.
This like, it feels like nursery story world.
Yeah.
Where if we're getting young enough and we're just kind of like living in little scenelets of character backstory, even if it's like one story, just so it's like tolerable for adults to watch all the way through. You know what I mean? Like there is something about that kind of like, oh, we just get to like, we get this moment with this little character, we get this moment with this little character, and it feels like jumping there. It is a different way of organizing the world around you that is developmentally appropriate for younger age groups before you really start creating that narrative for yourself.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't really start happening until,
later. Yeah. That's interesting to think about.
So for kids movies, and this is like, it's a kids movie, but not like, I think it's supposed to be a family movie.
Yeah.
And so and I still think it's like even a little too old for it to be doing that.
Yeah.
We can have a clear story with this one. And we're not actually caring about each of the little stories enough to actually be committing to doing that thing here. Yeah. Where it's like little, I don't know,
what are you doing with your hand?
The little pieces of stories, like little
vignettes.
Vignettes.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's almost like they really. I think we probably said something like this already, but it's that prioritization of like we're trying to make sympathetic characters rather than characters that have clear wants and actions. We're going to give them a backstory, and it's like, oh, actually, he's very sad, and this is why.
It's not just backstories. It's like it's like quirky details.
Yeah,
and some of it's like, yeah, we know that she likes the Olivia Colman character loves royals, so we can trick them to getting together by dressing him up as a Bavarian
noble of some kind. It's like so weird,
but it's just quirky. They're
right. It's weird. It's a weird plot point.
It's a weird plot point.
It's just so confusing.
And it is just like color that they use as storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's just confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not substantial. It's not tied to anything else. It doesn't inform anything of the bigger picture. So maybe that's what it is too. It's like we're also just forgetting what the big picture is.
Right.
We're forgetting what you shouldn't write a story to theme, but
what is the
theme?
Yeah.
Is there 100 different themes?
Well, and I'm not even necessarily 100% on board with the idea that you don't write to theme per se, but like what that means exactly. It's like you do need to have a unified categorical problem. Like, what is the choice being made here by every character? Every character is making a choice between these two things.
Right.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And depending on the circumstances, and that's how you get a complicated world.
Yeah. I mean, again, the Gene Wilder version, they're
really
all
interesting.
Charlie's.
How do you get to be a good person? You get to make
journey,
mistakes.
Even his mom's journey, even with the terrible song that she sings. The only low point in the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's the only negative I would say about that movie.
She sings to no one this song.
Cheer up, Charlie.
Cheer up, Charlie.
That I literally have skipped.
Yeah.
Almost
don't need
every
that,
other time that I've watched it.
Watching Charlie walk to home.
She could just be like, he's so sad. I wish he would cheer up. And that's the whole thing.
Yes.
Done. We don't
or have him, if you really want that song, let her actually sing it to him. So it actually is like.
If it's doing something
to him.
I just don't think
I'm not sure it needs it, but if you wanted it to do something, that's the only way to do it. So actually like sing it to him.
That is a way to do it.
Yeah. Because it does end with the theme being, it's like you're enough. Like you are you, it's like it's going to be, you're going to be good because you're you. And that's like. It's enough to be you. Yeah, kind of. It's a declaration of kind of the lesson here, where you don't have to be anything more.
It's a nice little piece of it.
Yeah,
it's not just the lesson, obviously.
No, yeah, right.
But we see the mom, Grandpa Joe. We see Willy Wonka. We see Charlie. We even see these kids. We all asking this same question.
Yeah, how do you be successful and good at the same time?
Yeah. And I am.
Where do you compromise your morals?
I think that is probably because that is such a strong part of that movie. I think we're afraid to have characters make dubious moral choices.
Yeah. I mean, like we talked about in the Gene Wilder, when Grandpa Joe and Charlie taste the
fizzy
lifting drink, we're like saddened by this. We're disappointed.
So disappointing.
We're like, no, but why'd you have to do that? We saw everybody else screwed up by doing it, and thank goodness they survived. They don't get kicked out at that moment.
Right? It
does come back to bite them in the ass later.
They do it in private. We think maybe they got away with it,
but we're still really disappointed that they made this choice.
Yeah.
We're so afraid for our heroes to make willful, disappointing choices.
Yes. Or they make
not just
the wrong
like,
bad choice.
oh, I had to. It's like they didn't have to. They didn't have to make that choice, but they did.
I mean, like, would have been really interesting if we're looking at, like, you know, where this kind of like jaded Willy Wonka that we end up with, and this like bright-eyed, hopeful. I love the character of Charlie and Willy Wonka in the Chocolate
Factory.
Factory.
So sweet. Oh my God. He's the only one that wants to help any of those kids. Yeah. He tries to save Augustus. He like takes that lollipop and is like, grab on. And he like sinks in. It's like, no one else is helping.
They set up his character so fast.
So fast.
Without
so sweet.
Telling us anything.
Yeah.
Like one of the first things we see in the movie is like him spending his first paycheck on bread for his family and then giving the rest to his mom and grandpa.
Yeah.
Just cause.
Yeah.
He didn't buy anything extravagant for himself.
Yep.
Nothing.
Right.
He's not a weird inventor like in the musical.
Ugh.
We can take a minute to just brag on the musical.
Oh my God, we can. Yeah.
But I just want to remember the point I was just talking about.
Just the bushy-tailed, bright-eyed.
We're like the idea of like kind of combining those for an origin story for Wonka could be really interesting.
Yeah.
And we could see that with that same setup if we're looking at him wanting to like go to whatever lengths he can to get his chocolate thing going, but also want to help this girl.
Yeah.
And then he's finding he's having to make a choice that's going to do one or the other.
Right.
And that doesn't really happen. He doesn't really have to like compromise one or the other.
No.
I mean, he does at one point where he's like, I'm giving up my chocolate dream so we can let this girl go.
Right.
They do that in the movie.
Sure.
That's like, that seems to be the one time they do that.
Yeah.
But even that seems like undercut. It's like not even.
Just turns out like he gets to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Which is fine. Like
and that's not necessarily that you can't do that too in a story. You just have to like make it very clear that there was something at stake to begin with, and it doesn't feel like there was.
Yeah. Yes. They didn't. Well, yeah.
That wasn't like, because that's the real stakes. The stakes isn't like, am I able to do chocolate or not? It's like, will I have to compromise these people in order for me to do chocolate?
Right.
Is that what's going to happen? And we actually are never afraid of that.
Right. Yes. Well, and right. The conflicts are just like, there's all these people against you, so you got to find out the way around them.
Right.
And while that's fine, it's like you're missing a piece of like the growth within the character.
Yeah.
I really do find that my biggest problem with this movie is that we lose the character.
Yeah.
We've lost like what he cares about, what his conflicts are.
Yeah.
And we're just throwing on backstory and quirks, thinking that they're story. And I think they're just distracting.
Yeah. I agree.
I think this is like very character specific.
Yeah. And we see something really similar. Mistakes happen in the musical, not to mention like terrible storytelling, just to like bring the musical in a little bit before we move on to our ratings. But that musical was awful.
That is one of the worst musicals I've seen in a long time. It is just written very, very badly.
Bad. And it's like, this is called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and we don't see the chocolate factory until Act 2, which is shorter than Act 1. And when we saw it...
Over an hour of Act 1.
Oh my God. And when we saw it, it was like... there was nothing... It was projected. It was an empty stage with like projections in the back. Mm-hmm. That was the Chocolate Factory. And
especially when they opened the candy room. That was...
Oh my God.
It was a screen.
It was a screen
in the back.
And I was so upset
they brought
by that.
yoga balls out.
Oh my God, the yoga balls. Oh geez.
That was candy that they were going to eat, maybe?
I guess. They were like kicking around the candies.
Bad.
So stupid.
That was bad.
And just this idea too, like that in the Gene Wilder film, it's like really brilliant to like save actually meeting Wonka until he comes out. It's like been the first time he's been out in, you know, a generation. Who knows how old this guy is? I don't know. But it's in the musical, he is posing as like the Wonka store clerk and is like orchestrating this whole thing from the inside, and he's like being a weirdo the whole time.
But that's
and it's
not
just
even
like
clear if that's what he's actually doing,
Yeah.
or if it's like a weird, like I get
a weird
it.
device.
I get it if you have the 2 candy store scenes that you have in the original movie in the musical, great.
Yeah,
that's fine.
fine.
And have the candy owner be a doubled casting of Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
And not say anything about it.
Right.
There's something interesting about that.
I agree.
I won't say that that's a terrible choice, but he's so, I think it's so, you're supposed to, it feels like you're supposed to ask the question, is that Willy Wonka?
Is that Willy Wonka? Right. And when the version we saw, and I think probably written this way, it's just supposed to obviously be Willy Wonka.
But
and
then
it's so stupid.
in the second act,
nobody
doesn't-
makes the connection.
we didn't
Nobody-
even get to the end, like, and say like, I met you and made this connection
Right.
with you. And I knew that you know, like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like there was no, we didn't talk about it after act 1.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And we took a lot of the scenes. I mean, it shouldn't have been a lot of scenes.
No, but every single
Before
scene was
the-
expanded for that. Oh my God.
And the scenes with Grandpa Joe are, they're just like goofy. They just,
Yeah.
again, another instance where they like just made quirky choices instead of like actual character development. And
Everybody needs a song.
everyone needs 7 songs. And there's something really interesting about using that show. I just like got a glimpse of like what it could be. I feel like with like Violet Beauregard's song, Violet Beauregard has like a cool poppy song.
Yeah.
Because she's the queen of pop. Because she chews and pops gum.
Chews and pops gum.
Clever.
Yeah, very
There's something
clever.
very clever.
Yeah.
And to make it like, this is like a kid Eurovision. Like if they just like, they like gave all the kids a song
That's
before
funny.
before the Chocolate Factory, and then songs in the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
To make it like, to really look at the ethical things that are happening in each of those little vignettes.
Yeah.
There's something interesting. They could have expanded that.
Yeah.
And they do sort of get something like that. There's
Yeah.
like elements of it, especially in the second act.
Yeah.
Some of the songs are interesting. But it's so inconsistent, and that's not what's then. But like then we just like cut out any songs that anyone else sings. I don't want to see any adults sing them.
Yeah.
I there's just so much wrong with it, and there's, oh my God, there's so many scenes that are added that I'm like, this is just nonsense. And I don't. You're just like, we want a fun, cool, magical stage moment.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's have everybody on stage mime an obstacle
An
course.
obstacle course, the obstacle course miming, where they were like, do you see the obstacle course? And there's nothing on the stage, and they all have to pretend like they're going through the obstacle course. And
Miserable.
then
You have to have brilliant actors, and even then it has to be so well done, and it's not gonna happen.
it's not, and then they get to the other side.
Oh, that makes me want
And
to
then
vomit.
Grandpa Joe's like, I can't do that. And they're like, well, then let's not go through this door anyway. And then they don't.
They don't even go to the room that they were about to go to.
So they did this
They
whole
just walk
obstacle
right back
course.
through the obstacle course.
Yes. They did this whole obstacle course to not go through the room.
I'm like, this show's so long. Please
Oh
cut
my
that.
God, it was so
I don't want to see
stupid.
this.
Oh, I hated it. I hated it so much. Oh God.
I know this episode's not about that,
No, it's not.
but we did say we were gonna put out a little thing, and we never.
We did. We never actually did it. But
I forgot to. But like, in relation,
yeah, it's an interesting example of like really solid storytelling in that original movie, and this like the musical is like clearly supposed to mimic it to some extent. It's like heavily based on it,
right?
and that they just like were not able to nail those storytelling moments, or why we're even telling the story,
Yeah,
and not even accommodating the medium well.
which is because there's interesting there's like threads of things that are like, okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
doing. You don't do it well, but I see why you're using technology.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, very
That's
interesting.
Very interesting. Technology is a piece of at least the movie. I don't know about the book.
Yeah.
But like Mike TV
Mike
and
TV.
like that, honestly, that scene was very interesting.
Yeah.
That was a little bit
I totally
stage
forgot
magic.
about. Yeah, I forgot about all of it.
A chocolate bar appeared on the screen and he took it out of the TV.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
That was
Oh.
pretty cool. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know how that happened. It was a cool TV.
That was a cool TV. And it was like a magical moment from the movie.
That we got to see on stage. It was really
Loved it.
cool.
I thought that was really
interesting.
It's like, oh, he just reached in and grabbed that
Yeah.
chocolate.
It's like, wow, clever.
There's interesting things that can
Yeah.
happen. There's and even modernizing the characters on what that like Mike TV playing video games the whole time. Like,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
I get it. I do. It just is not. It just was really bad. We lost so much storytelling. It was just like there was none in that.
Yeah.
We made Charlie a chocolate inventor, which is like nothing to do with anything. It's just like weird background. Like it is clearly not even necessary.
No.
It's not a part of what the story is even about.
No.
And like, I don't know why you would add that detail.
I have no
except
idea.
to add in 3 songs that like don't help the storytelling.
Right.
They're just like filling up time. Why make it a 90-minute no intermission show?
Yeah. Especially if it's geared towards kids. Pfft. Yeah, that's very silly. I mean, it makes the same mistake that Wonka does, where it's like, we're going to add all of this backstory in. We're going to add all of this. Here's why. Here's who these people are and where they're from. And it's like, we really don't need to know all that.
Like, at least for Wonka, the movie, at least it's like, it's a backstory movie.
That's true. That's true.
It like feels like maybe it's trying to set up more,
Yeah.
which I don't think it did well enough for that to happen.
I think can be a mistake too, of like making it a backstory movie as opposed to making it a prequel. Like it should be a story in its own right.
I know, but it's like being a prequel. Yes, it should be a solid story, but it's like there is an element where we're like, yeah, we want to kind of live in the thing.
Yeah.
And they just don't do it well.
Yeah.
In fact, we're just we spent so much time with with the cop and those and why do we need to know about Slugworth's niece and like why is that important?
Well, it was so weird. It was like watching like a season of like a soap opera like distilled into like
oh my god, kind of
into like one film where it's like and this thing too, and also this thing, and also this is how they're related, and also they're in love, and also he's getting bribed, and also there's a niece in the story because there was this whole argument of some generation that we never knew of, like the Slugworths, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much.
Yeah. It's especially as a kids movie, we're moving from like cute vignettes about these different characters to like, this is confusing, messy, like not fully thought out story writing that adults can just like take episodically.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, now we're back to inappropriate again.
Right.
So, yeah.
So let's move on to ratings for Wonka.
Okay, for Wonka.
That's all we're going to do. We're just going to talk about Wonka. We're going to rate Wonka.
It is called Wonka,
It's called Wonka, yeah.
Okay.
Story. I'm going to give story... Oof. Gosh, I mean...
It's got a story.
But it's not Skidamarink, so it's not a 1. I give it a 2.
Okay.
There is a story.
There is a story.
It's a 2. It's a 2
I'll
for
give
me.
it a 2.5.
God, you're so
because
nice.
it's there. Oh yeah, 2.5. So nice. It's there. And there's the thing is like I see the story. The skeleton is there. It just gets lost in the weeds of some of it, and some of it's cute and interesting around it.
Yeah.
Which is allowed. It just like does distract it from the story itself.
Yeah.
So I'll give it straight right in the middle. It's 2.5.
2.5. I go to 2. Okay. Technical. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting things. Some of the effects are really fun. The score is pretty good.
Yeah, the music
I couldn't sing any of the songs, but the music was better than I thought it was going to be.
And the singing too.
Yeah. The performing generally is good. Like I think Olivia Colman's excellent. Her like henchman's great. I think all the performances
is actually very
very funny, despite being again from Brooklyn or Staten Island or somewhere. I don't know. It was like, so what a weird choice. He couldn't do a British accent, so they're like, well,
maybe
just do New York.
Like, we need Cockney. We need that. Like, it's not really working.
It's like, actually, that's very funny. You should just keep doing your.
There's Brooklyn. Like, and that's one of those elements where you're like, okay, so is this just like way outside of reality?
Right.
Are we like, because in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we're like seeing, it's like that magical realism. Like we're like, oh, there's pieces of magic in the world.
In the world, right.
That's what, like, Roald Dahl always feels like that to me. Like when it's done well.
Yeah.
We're not like, this is a crazy kooky world. It's like Matilda is like.
The world is very dark and dreary, and then she has Zeus telekinetic.
Yeah. James Giant Peach. He finds a magic peach. It's horrible. His life is horrible until he finds a giant peach.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's something like the curtain has been pulled away, while in Wonka it's like, oh no, we just live behind the curtain.
Yeah. There's like a goofiness to everyone, even like the
people that are like stuck,
street.
And the people on the street, the people who are like, and part of that has to do with the fact that he's like bringing in these like weird chocolates, but we'll get to that. I think it's like technically very well made as far as all the technical bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
So sure. I think I will give it a 3.5.
Okay.
I'm not thrilled about script, but I think it's, then I'm edging it to story at that point, and I've already knocked it for that. Okay. So I'll give it a 3.5.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 3. I can't even like remember anything like that really stands out.
Yeah.
Technically, like there's nothing, I don't know, because of the inconsistency, because part of the technical feels like we're not consistent. It's like it's part of the consistency problem.
Yeah.
The technical elements were also not consistent.
Yeah.
They were done well, but inconsistently across the board. So a little higher than story, but I'm not like blown away by it by any means, by the technical elements. There's nothing that I was like, oh, well, that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah.
They balanced like the CGI and the stuff well.
Yeah. Performances are good. Music's good. Yeah.
But it's good. It's generally good.
Yeah.
It's good, solid, technically solid, but not mind-blowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
3.5. All right. And rewatch value.
I'm going to give it a 1.
I am same. I don't ever want to see that movie again.
Wow. I'm done. Like, I feel bad about it. Like I am hesitant a lot to give movies, to think of what would be an actual one.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's so blah.
Yeah.
And I don't even like care to tell other people to see it. This is one. If you haven't seen it, go ahead, watch this episode.
But I don't. Yeah, for real. Yeah, you could just.
We don't. I don't
talk about it. I don't care.
Like the beef episode. If you haven't watched the beef episode,
you have to watch the show.
Go watch that
oh my
right
god,
now,
that show's so good. And then listen to the episode. This one, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
They don't care. Maybe we'll put that in the front.
One of the few ones where it really doesn't matter if you've seen it. And the thing too, I feel bad about giving it a 1 myself because I'm like, this might be something that I would like show a child.
No. I mean,
if I was aching for, I would choose something else. But if like a kid was like I want to watch that, or if it was like chosen out of a lineup, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, but if you chose it for the kid,
I wouldn't exclude it from a lineup. But that's mostly because it's like just a recent film that's like, it would be a ton of Disney movies that are old and then like Wonka. But I don't know. It's a 1.
I'm not
it's a
saying
1
that
for
other
me.
people can't like it.
Yeah. No.
Maybe I can give it a 1.5 because it's like, pleasant to watch. It was pleasant. It wasn't a bad experience. Like that's,
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't leave the room if it were on.
Yeah.
But there's no way that I would choose.
But I wouldn't mind leaving. I also wouldn't stay.
Wouldn't mind leaving.
Yeah.
I'm not like interested to like find out more details.
No.
I'm not interested to like see it again.
No,
And
I don't
that's
care.
Why, I guess you're right. It's one.
It's a 1.
It's like because a pleasant experience the first time does not rewatch value make.
No, that's a
necessarily.
technical thing.
Sure. Yes.
The 3.5 it gets for me for technical is where that resides.
I will say that, you know, if we're looking at this as like a movie for a family,
Yeah.
there are movies for kids that are just atrocious and I wouldn't play again.
Yeah.
And this, I'd be like, okay. Yeah.
If you really like it, we can do it.
If a kid liked it, I wouldn't be like, this is so dumb. Like,
Yeah.
it's like not that bad.
Right. Yeah.
It's fine. And there's worse kids movies.
For
there's
sure.
really bad kids movies. This is not a terrible, terrible movie.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it again. And I don't want to tell other people to see it.
No.
Especially adults.
No.
It's a different thing. If we're talking about it as a kids movie specifically, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about as
an
adult to rewatch a movie.
filmdom.
I never need to see that again.
Yeah.
Nor
Okay.
do I think you need to see it at all?
No.
Which is
Those
why
are
we're
our
giving it
ratings. Boom.
All right.
Okay.
Superlatives.
Yay.
Fun,
What is
fun.
our Oscar-worthy moment?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to give it Olivia Colman.
Okay. Just is there a specific?
There's I think in the whole, like the whole first scene when she's like switches to be like terrible to whatever her name is, Pockets or whatever. I don't remember what her name is. What is the girl's name? I don't remember. There was some weird.
I forgot her name was
something like that. I don't remember.
Cheese or not Cheese. They have a whole song where they say her name 100 times.
Yeah, they do.
Pickle.
Cheddar, pickle. I don't remember, but it's because her name
look it
doesn't rhyme with anything, but it does, which is weird. I don't know. But it's like she is like just awful. Like they really dug into some like Roald Dahl awful adult situation.
Which
Which is very Roald Dahl. Like, you know, she is Trunchable. Noodle, right. She's Trunchable and the teacher from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and all those, the ants from James and the Giant Peach.
Ugh.
Like she is all of those kind of mixed into one thing.
God, Roald Dahl had a horrible childhood.
Must have, right?
Horrible.
Just really hated adults.
Adults were horrible to him, apparently.
Yeah. But I think that kind of that really like slimy Mrs. Lovett meets Trunchable situation, or like Miss Hannigan. Mrs. Lovett meets Miss Hannigan. Which is weirdly the Kristen Chenoweth character from season 2 of Schmigadoon, which is very funny. I
literally thought that it feels like Schmigadoon-y.
Yeah.
And that is like making fun of the...
Right, of the genre and the archetype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not enough. There wasn't enough. It could have gotten away with some things if it was more meta.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't quite. It wasn't like serious enough. It wasn't silly enough. Like there was.
Yeah.
It didn't take a path. It was confused.
Yeah. So Olivia Colman for me.
Olivia Colman. I want to say. I just think Keegan-Michael Key was the funniest.
He's so
I just
funny.
thought he was very funny.
He's very funny.
He has some of the best like one-liners in the movie, and his character had like some of the strongest. I don't know. I knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And
good physical comedy. He just kept getting like fatter and fatter.
I thought he was very good.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much, especially when he came out with that Brooklyn accent. I was like, I'm going to hate this. And I was like, I
actually don't hate this.
Don't hate it.
I kind of think it's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unearned moment. There's a lot of them. I think. I think the thing that really gets me is when he makes the like invention that makes the laundry go. that does the laundry automatically. I just like this idea that he's like all these things. He's a magician and a chocolate maker and an inventor, and
which
it just doesn't. It tracks sort of, but that whole plot is so weird to me that he's like doing laundry now in the basement of this.
Again, it feels like a nod to the original movie.
Yeah, where the mom is because Charlie's mom is doing laundry.
Because it's like the hardships. We're seeing the parallels of the hardships that they're going through, but
it just doesn't do anything for me.
Well, and I think that's another moment. I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and my unearned moment is gonna be like the reaction to it.
Yeah.
And how they're like, you haven't been here all day.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, but you got the day off.
Yeah.
You guys didn't have to do. You guys just said you had a little party. Like, why are you guys?
What are you mad about?
Weird about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and it's a moment that is also skipped the like ethical question. Like, it's maybe a moment where like, oh, he kind of like, if he had screwed them over
right
by doing the thing, then there's an ethical question.
Right.
But there isn't.
Right.
And they kind of like, it feels like a today ethical question, but you didn't think about our feelings when you helped us.
Yeah.
We're like, what?
Okay.
I don't know. That I thought about that earlier where I'm like, what was that?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to care about them? And then they join the team. It's confusing. So yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. And
all right.
They're not the same moment, but like.
No, yeah. Just as yours is like the immediate aftermath of the weird invention that he makes out of nothing in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, if he's just like solving problems, like just sell that machine.
Yeah. For real.
Just go out and be like, I have this machine that does all your laundry.
Yeah.
You're paying it like, that's going to save you thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Or pounds or whatever they're using.
Yeah. Whatever the money was.
Yeah.
Pounds, I think.
I think so.
I think it was London. Anyway.
Okay. How about favorite musical number?
The first one. I don't
that he
remember any of
sings.
them.
Oh, I liked the one with the 3. I mean, I don't know if I liked it, but I think the best one was probably when the 3 villains are like singing and they do like the weird. They're like courting the Keegan-Michael Key character.
It went better than I thought it would too. Like it was so weird.
It was
they had
weird.
This, like, full choreography.
Yeah,
and that was like the best part because they like committed to it. They were like very serious about it, which I enjoyed.
Yes. And they're not like dancers, but they just like really they did it, and I was tickled.
Yeah,
by that.
The only one that I can really that I like remember anything about, other than that one, I guess I can kind of remember that one. But the only other one that I like really actually remember content. Oh, I guess the first one he's like, I have money.
Well, he's like, and he's dancing a lot, and it's like everybody's dancing around him. And it's like all in his mind.
Yeah. I think it was a good start. It was a really nice start for a musical. But I guess I was going to say the other one that I can sort of remember, but I don't love it. It feels like, it's like the Noodle song.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like, I get the wordplay because wordplay is like something that like one Roald Dahl is like known for, but also it's like very prominent in that Gene Wilder movie.
Right.
But it's something just like, they're like sneaking out and they're spending so much time. I just got stressed out watching it, but I do remember the song and it was like a sweet moment. Yeah,
it was really sweet. And I was like, it like edged on a little bit weird. Like it felt a little weird and lovey to me. And I was like, is this a love song? This is a little strange because she's like 8.
Yeah.
I don't like that, but it was sweet.
It's like,
they like fly away with the balloons. And
the thing is like, again, could be interesting if we're seeing like, oh, he cares and is like looking out for a child, which is the opposite of what he does in the movie.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't give a shit about any of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so there's something really interesting where you're watching him, and it just has me ask the question, like, what happens? What happened to him?
Yeah. And I wish that's what we had seen.
Yeah. And again, if they're always trying to like
make a sequel,
make a sequel,
make a
they're
series.
always,
They're always looking.
So they're not gonna commit to a full story in the first go around. They're gonna see if it, which is a problem.
Yeah.
I think that might be a big part of
Why these
the
stories
problem.
get uncompleted. They're half baked.
Just watch Adventure Time, guys.
Watch Adventure Time. Each story is complete.
Each story is complete, and it leaves everything open.
Yep.
Do it.
Yep.
And they're so good at going back in time.
Yeah, it's great. It's
they're
excellent.
crazy. Anyway, this is a whole episode.
All right. Next.
Favorite confection.
Favorite confection.
I guess the little the silver lining candy that.
Oh, the silver lining candy.
sweet.
That's so sweet. Where
It's
they
like
get to see the
sunshine
silver
and
lining.
cloud, like,
yeah.
It was like glowing.
That's
The
what I
first
was
time
just
that
thinking about that.
noodle
I think I'm
had
going to
chocolate.
say the same thing because it was like you get to watch it made in
Yeah.
the weird contraption that he has. And it was like very cool
That's-
to see. It was very sweet. It looks delicious too.
It gave me at least an idea of finite resources that he brought with him. Like
Yeah.
he's been collecting these resources. Like,
Right.
I mean, he seems to have an infinite amount of resources.
Yeah, for real.
He opens the chocolate factory in like 3 minutes. Has
I know.
a fully decked out chocolate
And it's all
shop.
factory. It's all chocolate. And it's just
It's
like,
all chocolate. And the whole plot point about the Oompa Loompa is that he stole the 3 cocoa beans that were their whole supply of cocoa beans.
right. I'm like, not sure what
I'm
is
like,
happening
where's
here.
he getting the rest of his stuff? Like, if resources are such a problem,
Yeah. It was a
why
little
does he have
confusing
resources?
at all? Yeah. It was very strange.
Unless
Unless he's getting it from somewhere else. I don't know.
He has like a Mary Poppins sort of bag situation.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like,
It's so weird. Yeah.
but why is he Mary Poppins too? I don't know.
But I liked the silver lining. It was very cute.
It was cute.
Yeah. There was the fun one too. I think maybe I'll take the one where it's like, it's the whole, you go through all the stages of like being drunk until you fall asleep.
Oh, that
Where you
was
take
cute.
it and then you're like, you get like a little tipsy and then you start dancing and then you sing and then you call an ex-lover and then you pass out. And I thought that was
That
really
was
dumb.
very
That was so
cute.
stupid.
And they brought it back a couple. It was
They
very
did. That was
cute.
cute. That was a
I
cute
liked that
little-
one. And they had the 2 people
Yeah.
that they did it to, and then they called each other.
Yeah,
Like, very
that's cute.
I liked that.
A little too much backstory again, but like, okay.
But that was like, at least it's like, oh, it's that. So it's the same
It's just
backstory.
right. It's just a funny coincidence. Like you just get to see it happen, and you're like, oh my god, it's connected.
That's cute. That's a cute way to do like too much backstory. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but they're the same. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say least favorite candy thing. It's just because I'm annoyed that there was a candy that makes you fly.
Yeah.
When there's a whole plot point in the first one that's like, we haven't gotten the fizzy lifting drink right.
Yeah.
When he can like whip up something magical that can make you fly.
Well, they also didn't get that right quite, right? It was like everybody was flying away and they couldn't like
Oh, that
land.
wasn't a problem in this Wonka.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that was how they like had the chocolates at the end and they like flew away. Like the bad guys were like floating away and they couldn't get back down.
Yeah, because they didn't know they were going to be floating.
Okay, yeah. But you're right. I think that's like, it's a little bit
It wasn't
unearned
like-
because in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
Yes.
Factory, it's like, I can't figure out how to make it work. And it's like, well, you knew how apparently in the past.
Right.
With those weird little bugs that apparently like fly in your belly until
like-
what? You like toot it out?
Oh, I don't remember. Was there a specific?
I thought he said something like you like poop it or something.
Oh, that it comes out.
It comes out the other end, which is so
forgot.
weird. It's like, it doesn't just die. It doesn't just get like
It's not
burned
just
up
eaten?
in
It's not
your
just
right. It's not just
digested?
digested. It's weird. It's like, ew. That's so strange.
I don't get it.
How about let's do like best and worst reference to the Gene Wilder film.
Okay.
So we've got like the contract.
Yeah.
You know, the small print of the contract. We've got the steps, running up the steps and down the steps. Scratch that, reverse it. We've got costume. We've got Oompa Loompas. I think we've got like the flying thing. We've got
Slugworth is.
We have Slugworth as
laundry,
a reference,
like we said.
Yeah, the laundry.
There's like lots of little things.
Yeah. The mom, the poor mom. Like there's like the parallel with Charlie, just generally. So we'll start with best. What's the best reference?
Honestly, since you mentioned it, I think The Contract is such an interesting connection between the two.
I was going to say the same. And it's like that's like my way in for like, ooh, this would have been really interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
Because as we discussed way at the beginning of this episode, it's like seeing the origins of the villain.
Yeah.
Whereas like he's using the strategies that were used to keep him out of the game to keep others out of the game.
Right.
In Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I think that's really clever.
He finds a way through. So it's not like it's a really difficult challenge, but
yeah.
He finds a way through it so fast, though.
Yeah.
There's like, it's like almost, we just don't want to see Timothee Chalamet go through any challenges.
Apparently.
Like we just saw him cry and Call Me Maybe and
Call Me Maybe.
Call Me by Your Name.
I'm going to call it Call Me Maybe from now on.
Call Me Maybe, Jesus.
That stupid movie, Call Me Maybe. Call Me by Your Name, where he just like cries in front of a
and so now
camera.
we're all like, oh, no, he can't have any more difficulties in his life.
That little fly kept flying and landing on his face. Ooh, give him a break. Just let him ride that worm. It's fine.
He can be hard.
He can get stabbed 3 times and survive. It's fine. Yes. So, what about worst reference? I think generally just the scratch that and reverse it thing, like after seeing the Gene Wilder one again, it's like, so I don't know what its use in the book is, but it's so sparse. It just happens 2 times and it's to the same, he says the same thing twice. Gene Wilder's, there's too much time and little to see. And he's like, wait, scratch that reverse. He says that 2 times. It's about time and like stuff to see or stuff to do. And in the musical they did it too, where it's just like every other line. They did a whole song about it.
Beat it, dead horse. It was just
and
horrible.
They did it a few times in the Wonka, and it was like about other things. It wasn't about time and doing. And I don't like that. It was just so sparse, and it's such like a weird. It's another moment of like quirkiness that was like so understated by Gene Wilder that ends up being like, oh, it's a weird thing he does. He gets things opposite. And I'm like, I hate that. That's stupid.
I think the use of the mother in like having it be like, you know, he has his one family member, that one nice adult that he's doing it for.
Yeah. All the other adults are shitbags, and
but she's not there, and we don't find out about her until later, and it's just like so poorly done. I don't mind using his mom.
Yeah,
I think it could have worked to like really parallel his journey with Charlie's journey.
Yeah,
especially if we gave him a lot more. He wasn't just like a superhero. He wasn't just like magic. Like he's just magic.
Especially if she was there. Like, what if she was actually there? Like, she didn't have to actually be dead. I don't know.
She can be dead. I don't mind. I don't mind her being dead and him being kind of like not really a kid, not really an adult in like a weird world where he has to like bring I get it. Like,
all right.
It can be, she could be there, but like, it really, because she wasn't there, and because we don't know for a long time that he's like doing it for mama, like that, it's like
doing it for her,
and it like makes sense. Like where you're like, oh well, clearly the city is not a good place to open it up. Just go somewhere else. Yeah, but this is the dream that me and my mom had, but we don't know that until so much later.
I know,
and I don't know it, but that's not even the problem. I don't know. It's not used well. When Charlie's relationship to adults, especially his mom, which is like very sparse in the movie, but his mom and Grandpa Joe together, like to see the adults that are trying their best and still failing is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way that like having like this like ideal adult role model in his mind isn't doing quite the same thing.
Yeah.
Where she's failed because she died. Not because of any other
Right. Not because it's like life is hard.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think, and I say that because I like the idea of having him have an adult that is on his side, like a real like caregiver role that is on his side.
Right.
Because I think like having him be in between adulthood and childhood is very interesting.
Right.
But it's not done well. I like the idea and I don't like the execution.
Yeah. All right. Great.
I think that's it. I think we did
let's wrap it up. I think we did it. We don't ever have to talk about Wonka again. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot. Follow us on all of the social media platforms. You can listen to us wherever you find your podcasts. You can watch us on the YouTube. You can see our beautiful outfits. I'm showing a lot of leg, so that's something you have to look forward to in the video. And we'll see you again next time. I'm Pavi Proczko, and remember, the Gene Wilder version is terrible. Wait, flip that, reverse it.
Cute. And I'm Colin Funk, and remember, Oompa Loompas are a sophisticated, posh Hugh Grant types, apparently.
All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Proczko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Proczko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Two Grooms, One Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at twogroomsOneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.